Okay, let's get right into it. There is a massive, and I mean massive, shift happening in the global economy. It's kind of flying under the radar for most people, but the consequences are huge. And that's what we're going to unpack today. You hear a ton about trade wars, tariffs, all that stuff. But this quote kind of hits the nail on the head. That's not the real story. The real story is something much bigger, much more fundamental about how countries are competing with each other now. And that real story is called industrial policy. So, what is it? Well, think of it this way. It's when a government decides to stop being a referee on the sidelines and jumps onto the field to become a player. They're not just setting the rules of the game anymore. They're using our money, taxpayer money, and their power to push certain industries like green energy or semiconductors way ahead of the others. And let me tell you, this isn't some fringe economic theory anymore. Nope. In 2025, this is the main event. From Washington to Brussels to Canberra, governments are all in, betting big on this strategy. They're actively picking who they think the winners of the future will be, and then backing them with everything they've got. And the scale of this thing, it is just staggering. I mean, look at this. The US is throwing nearly $1 trillion at this. The EU isn't just spending money, they've set a hard target. They want 40% of their clean tech made right at home by 2030. The UK? They're literally creating a brand new state-owned energy company. It's a full-blown global arms race, but the weapons this time are subsidies and state cash. Now, this chart really puts it all into perspective. On the far left, in red, you've got China. No surprise there, right? They've been the undisputed champion of state-led economics for a long, long time. But look what's happening right next to them. Yeah, that's the United States. The West isn't just dipping its toes in the water anymore. It's catching up to Beijing at a truly incredible speed. And when we say aggressiveness, what do we mean? Well, the score isn't just about throwing money around. It measures the whole shebang, from the pure scale of the spending to how much direct control the government has over companies. It's a really good snapshot of just how deep the state is getting into the weeds of the economy. So this leads to the million-dollar question, or I guess the trillion-dollar question. With all this government cash flying around, with all this intervention, you'd think these economies would be absolutely firing on all cylinders, right? Are we seeing explosive growth? Well, here's the big twist in the story. You look at the top interveners on the left, China, the US, the EU, and their growth is, well, it's middling at best. But then you look to the right, at Singapore, a country that's way less aggressive with this stuff, and they're posting solid, healthy growth. It just doesn't quite add up, does it? And what's so fascinating about Singapore is that it used to be the poster child for this exact kind of state intervention. They practically wrote the playbook. But now, just as the rest of the world is rushing to copy that old playbook, Singapore is doing the opposite. It seems to be succeeding by zigging while everyone else zags. And all of this raises a pretty provocative question. Maybe the West looked at China's model and said, we want some of that. But as this quote suggests, maybe they're just copying the wrong parts. Focusing on the splashy spending without really understanding what made the model work in the first place. So that brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. This whole debate, this whole global arms race, it shouldn't really be about who can spend the most money. The real question, the one we should all be asking, is way more fundamental. Does this whole strategy of picking winners actually work? Does it deliver what it promises? Because so far, the evidence is anything but clear.